Welcome, everyone, to the Newvision Oldways podcast, a greatly ambitious journey of discovery where we can all learn to live better, mentally healthier, and more fulfilling lives. If you're just discovering us, feel free to go back and take the journey from the beginning. And if you're already a Newvision Oldways fan, welcome back and enjoy season
6.
And now, here is your host, Tony Marinaccio.
You are listening to Newvision Oldways, the podcast that explores timeless wisdom for the modern mind in a fun, relaxed, and most important, interactive way with you, the listener. I am your host, Tony Marinaccio, and let's get the episode started. Welcome, Visioneers, to another great episode of the Newvision Oldways podcast. And I truly hope that you enjoyed part 1 of this amazing interview with medical intuition researcher Tracy Poff. And we hit on many aspects of medical intuition while also talking about what a dowser does, the ever so important aspect of energy in this discussion, and the mindset we have to have when going down these alternative paths of finding out what can be wrong or bothering us both physically and mentally. And in this part 2 of the interview, we now start to really dig into what to expect when visiting a medical intuit, how energy healing enters the picture, and how the universe is connected via quantum entanglement. I know that's a big one. And so much more. I know some people may feel overwhelmed with the amount of information we go through during the discussion, but trust me when I say this, it will all make sense to you. Listen through the whole thing. And more importantly, it will all hopefully inspire you to do your own research and possibly test out these ideas and concepts on your own. Healing is the order of the day, and I want to make sure I give you every alternative that I can. We can all reach roadblocks in our overall health, and I firmly believe that we are not encouraged to find out alternative ways, natural ways to heal ourselves. And if you have not listened to part 1, go back. Listen all the way through and let that flow directly into this part 2. And there is no time better than right now to keep that flow going. So let's start part 2 of this series of Medical Intuition, Detective for the Mind, Body, and Soul, episode number 56. So can we, obviously you're talking about energy, right? I would assume. Yes. So that's always been a fascinating area for me right there, is just, I've always believed that part of things. You know, there's obviously an energy that comes. You can tell when somebody walks into a room and the room changes immediately. So I'd like to think that's me, but probably not. But the way I look at it is you could sense something. It's like when you don't see somebody from behind, but you could sense them being there. It's sort of like that. So maybe if you want to get into a little bit of the energy aspect of it, because I think that's a part of it that I think that's going to tail into when somebody goes to see a medical intuitive, what they're going to expect and how they're going to get to whatever results they're going to get to. So maybe you could touch on the energy aspect of it, because I think it's a perfect place to kind of lead into what someone might experience when they go see a medical intuitive.
Well, actually, the client who's seeing a medical intuitive can be completely ignorant of any energy happening anywhere. Like, So, because a medical intuitive, well, it depends on the medical. Okay, quick again, side note, medical intuitive, some offer assessments only, meaning a client comes in, the intuitive tunes into that client, does a reading, and the output of the reading is information. Mm-hmm. So they've told them something about their body. Other medical intuitives, they use the same label, medical intuitive, but they include in their reading energy healing. So in addition to just giving data, they may also do energy healing. And energy healing, then the client may feel something energetically happening. So I just want to make that distinction. But back to energy, what you prompted in my awareness was the concept of subtle energy. So again, this is something we can blindly go through life not thinking about, but have these experiences like you were describing, walking into a room. Let's say you walk into a room and there's 2 people who were there before you, and you feel like you could cut the tension in the room with a knife. Like, those 2 people may not be saying anything, but you can feel it in your body.
You sure can. Yep.
I think they just had an argument, or I think they're on the outs with each other. So what what that feeling is, first of all, it's what we call clairsentience. So the clairs, Clair, it comes from the French verb clair, but basically scientific type people who study energy have come up with these words: clairsentience, clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairgustance, clairaudience. And those are basically what I just did was stick the word clair in front of each of our 5 physical senses: seeing, hearing, tasting, touching. So clairaudience, for example, is hearing. But what the clair means is it's beyond physical. We've reached, so if I say I hear you, we all interpret that to mean, oh, you said something, it went into my ear and I heard it physically. But clairaudience is hearing something that's in the subtle energy realm. So if we go back to the assumption that everything is energy first and everything has an energetic component, the clair senses, which we all have, that's what the clair senses are tuning into, that the subtle energy, the energy, not the physical. So if I hear something clairaudiently, I'm hearing it in the soup of energy out there. I may hear it in my head. You don't hear it. You probably didn't hear it, but I heard it because I'm clairaudient. I'm just using it as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Or clairvoyance. Somebody sees something that other people don't see. So that's what the clair senses are, is the extrasensory. Beyond the physical sense, it's extrasensory. So back to our example of walking into a room and you can cut the tension with a knife, like, oh my God, what just happened here? That's what I would call clairsentience. Clairsentience is the feeling, is when we feel things inside of us that aren't ours. So, because you back to our example, I knew what I felt like when I walked into the room, and I didn't feel tense, but I walked into that room and all of a sudden I'm feeling tension.
Mm-hmm.
I'm picking up, my body is physically picking up the energy in the room. So now this is a great place, if we may, we can talk a little bit about the human energy field.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, great. So the physical body, we all can see it if we're sighted, with our physical eyes, and we can touch it with our hands. It's a physical thing. But back to the assumption that everything's energy first, it makes sense that our physical body that we can see has an energetic component. And it actually, I would posit, it came as energy first. So there's an energetic template that the physical body fills into. So scientists have dubbed our energy, the human energy field, the biofield. So that's equivalent to what some people would call the aura.
Mm-hmm.
We can call it the human energy field, the biofield, the aura. They're all referring to this phenomenon that energy extends beyond our body. So we can question, does it come from the body and it radiates outward, or does it exist out here in the ethers and form our physical body? And I would say it's both. There's a constant interaction, interplay between our energetic field and our physical body. So this helps explain why we feel the tension in a room when 2 people have just had an argument and we walk in and we can feel it, because our energy fields are now merging. So my energy field, which before I walked in that door of that room, I felt happy, lucky. What's that word? Lucky.
Happy go lucky. There you go. You got it.
And then I walked into the room and all of a sudden, it's because my energy field just merged, came into the same space as the other 2 people, their energy fields, and the energy field that they created between themselves. And so it's like this merging of energy fields. And because there's constant communication, as we just mentioned, from the physical body into the energy field, from the energy field back into the physical body, that's why I feel it in my body. Because my tentacles, if you will, the energy that I have that that surrounds my body, that's really part of my being, just merged with a very angry energy field. And my energy field is taking that information and bringing it back to my body.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I know I've been talking a lot.
Oh, no, it's okay. So for energy healing, we've talked about that a little bit, or mentioned it at least. That is an interesting area, because that's why I wanted to go down that road. I'm so glad you did your explanation the way you did, because that leads perfectly, I think anyway, right into energy healing and how that may work for somebody. And then, so maybe if there's a scenario that you can give an example of how that might work for someone who is, maybe they don't know what's wrong with them. Maybe they're just full of anxiety and depression, and they have absolutely no idea why. And there's a lot of people that do that. I've been through that myself, where I'm not even sure what's wrong, but I know something's wrong. Is that something that an energy healer would tackle? Is that a scenario?
Absolutely. Because the beauty of energy healing is it's gentle, non-invasive. It's only going to flow. The energy is flowing to the recipient if there's an open door for it. So generally speaking, so in a case where you're describing, like, I don't know what's wrong with me, I feel it, but something's off. It's a great case for an energy healer, because the energy healer, okay, let's back up. So most credible energy healers won't say that they heal you. What they offer is a connection to your own well-being. So again, back to this concept that we're in the sea of energy. We came from energy. We're spiritual beings before we're human beings. That's a sea of wellness. Whatever the source of life is, it's neutral to positive, the way I look at it anyway, because life is a creative force. It's a positive. So I look at this, the source of all things, as being the source of wellness. I look at it as equivalent to wellness. So if we can align ourselves with this source of wellness, we're aligning ourselves with our source. We're aligning ourselves with that which made us, that which thought us into being. That's where wellness comes from. That's where healing comes from. Nobody can give that to you.
Mm-hmm.
And whether somebody takes a pharmaceutical drug and they feel better, or they went to an energy healer and they feel better, all they did was give themselves permission to feel better. They aligned with that source of energy, because as we know, no one drug, no one modality works for all people.
Absolutely not. Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. It's as if we all have our own, like if there's a lock and key between illness and wellness, it's as if we all have our own combination lock. And so someone could take some drug and feel better. Another person can take that exact same drug and not feel better. One person can go to an energy healer and feel better. Another person can go to an energy healer and not feel better. It's all whatever is a fit. Mm-hmm. So what the space of energy healing does, and most energy healers, that's what they're aiming for, is to create this openness within the client to align with their source, their source of wellness, the source of life. And healing, sorry, I'm just going to say this too, because it just came forward. I love this example. When we get a paper cut, what happens?
It hurts. And it heals. And then it heals.
And then it heals.
Right.
And if I didn't put a Band-Aid on it and I didn't do anything, I just left it alone for a couple days, I will notice day by day, oh, look at that. My skin's coming together. Look at that. It's getting smaller. Mm-hmm. And, a week later, you barely notice it. That's what I'm talking about. Healing is the natural order of the day. Healing is always happening. Everything's moving in the direction of healing.
It's a very good point, by the way.
So if we allow ourselves to go with the flow of healing, then we will heal. It's our blocks that we put in the way of that free-flowing energy. It's like free to everybody healing. Now, I need to be careful here because I don't want to give the impression if somebody's suffering from a chronic disease or they feel debilitated. I'm not saying they've done anything wrong. I'm not saying they're blocking their healing. I don't want to, like, we all have our own path because who knows, that path may lead to their spiritual healing. So everybody's path is perfect. Wherever anybody is in their path is perfect. But if we're in a position where we want to feel better and we feel that we're willing to own our discomfort and get out of what I would call a victim mode, like, oh, well, this happened to me because, or I blame so-and-so. Well, for example, my daughter was just home from college this weekend and she was sick with a cold. And she left, she went back to school. And guess what? I woke up this morning and I'm like, oh,
oh no.
I feel the sore throat and congestion coming on. But I don't blame anybody. Like, she didn't do anything to me.
No, of course not.
And, so my view of illness and, for example, a cold, on a different day, a different week, I may not have started experiencing symptoms. I could have spent the weekend with my quote sick daughter. She could have left and I could have felt totally fine. But on this particular week, I am feeling a little run down today. I am feeling like, I feel something coming on. And I would say I was pretty stressed last week. It was a fun stress getting ready for Thanksgiving, but I wasn't sleeping. I was up late every night preparing. And I was tired every day. I could feel it. And so if my rational brain wants to explain things, I'd say I was a little run down. My immune system was probably a little run down and suppressed because I wasn't well rested. And so it doesn't surprise me that now I feel like I'm starting to get sick. So it's not because somebody did something to me, So anyway, all of that is to say, I believe part of our willingness to allow wellness is owning responsibility for our own health and well-being. Nothing is happening to us. This is, all like the emphasis on to. Nothing is happening to us.
Right.
This is all like with us, for us. This is the isness of back to what you're saying about being present with the moment. So if I'm being present with the moment, I feel a little scratchy throat. I feel a little congestion. It doesn't matter what preceded it. This is where I am today. So I feel that willingness of owning where we are is what's helpful going into an energy healing session or any kind of therapy is owning within ourselves our right to feel well, our responsibility to ourselves to feel well. Like it's all with us. It's not coming from someone else. So I think this is, so if someone, whether they go to an energy healer, whether they're taking a drug, if there's always a sense that this came from outside of myself, well, I got better because the energy healer did this and, she's so great. And, that may be true. Like in that moment, you had a great session and you came out feeling better. But if the mind is always assigning responsibility to something outside of ourselves, whether it's a drug or an energy healer, I don't think that person, let's say it's me. If I'm always doing that, I don't think I would ever feel fully inside myself and feel my full vibrance and feel my birthright of health if I'm always looking outside of myself. I'm not sure how I ended up down that track.
Oh no, it's a perfect track actually, because I've talked about neuroplasticity on many occasions where you could retrain your brain to think differently, but you have to be willing to obviously go down that road. Like you were just saying, it's something that I talk about all the time. You have to make the effort yourself. I mean, no one can just fix you. just by offering you a drug and saying, we're going to fix you, take this. There's got to be a lot more to it. So that's why I love going down these different paths, because like you said, maybe someone who really doesn't feel comfortable for some reason with mindfulness, then maybe the Tao Te Ching's a better option for them. Maybe, there's different ways to practice the same thing, I guess. Maybe it's not exactly the same, but it's pretty much the same. So you want to get to that place that you want to get to, and maybe mindfulness doesn't get you there. Maybe the Tao does, and in this case, I think that's a perfect spot to say, once you've gotten to that point where you're willing to make that effort to heal yourself, or to allow whatever options you may not have considered before to come into the picture, when they contact a medical intuit, how can a person know that they're getting maybe the right person? How do they know that they're actually doing the right thing at that moment? And maybe walk us through that a little bit and into what they can expect at a medical intuit appointment.
Okay. So I think it's important to restate that medical intuitive, some professionals use that to mean one thing, and other professionals use that same term, medical intuitive, to mean something a little different. And so that would be the first thing I would alert somebody to. If they're looking for a medical intuitive, read their website, or if you've got their name from somebody find out what they mean by medical intuitive. So there are those who call themselves a medical intuitive, and what the client is going to get out of that session is information. That's it. Now I say that's it. But in truth, most medical intuitives who they're just giving information. They're not trying to do any energy healing. Medical intuitives who do that have told me that often their clients leave the session feeling a little better, if not physically, emotionally,
Which is a lot.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Because our physical symptoms are absolutely 100% tied to all of us, to our mental state, to our emotional state, to our spiritual state.
Absolutely.
It's all one ball of wax. So if somebody leaves a medical intuitive session feeling emotionally better, that can only help their physical state. But one of the reasons they often feel better is because the people who end up seeing a medical intuitive often are people who have been dismissed by the medical system. These are people who have chronic conditions that have not responded to treatment, or they have some mysterious condition that has been undiagnosed, that doctors are not able to diagnose. And so doctors end up telling them, I don't know what's wrong with you. It's in your head. Actually, there's a very moving story. I won't go into the details, but one medical intuitive told me about, in her experience, a woman who had had been dismissed by doctors. She had back pain. Nobody could figure out what it was. They told her it was, quote, psychosomatic. And they gave her opioids to help her with the pain. And by the time she found a medical intuitive, and the medical intuitive, okay, I'm going to tell the story because it's really powerful.
Go ahead.
The medical intuitive. So this is a classic scenario in terms of how somebody finds themselves in a medical intuitive, and similar to mine, even though mine was accidental when I had discovered medical intuition. It was after 2.5 years of effort of trying to heal our daughter back to 100%. So that's how a lot of people find medical intuition, because the conventional medical system hasn't done the trick yet. So anyway, back to the story. This woman had back pain. She had been to doctor after doctor. My back is really hurting. We can't find anything. It must be psychosomatic. They put her on opioids. Her parents ended up scheduling an appointment with a medical intuitive. The medical intuitive found, actually, I want to give credit to Wendy Coulter. She's the medical intuitive I talked about. You can find this story in her book. It's called Medical Intuition, and there's a subtitle, which I'm forgetting right now. But she describes the story in her book, and the medical intuitive found in her clairvoyant scan of the person a shard at the top of her ureter that looked like it was a physical thing forming in her body. And she suggested she go see a surgeon. And the woman did find a surgeon. There actually was something there. He removed it. It relieved her back pain. There's a sad ending to that story because by then the woman had become addicted to opioids. It was a very, very powerful experience for the intuitive, who, like I said, I recommend her book highly. She explains medical intuition, Wendy Coulter. So I'm sorry, Wendy, if I didn't do your story justice. But
that's a great story, and I'll tell you why. Because I mean, obviously, we know opiates and drugs like that are just probably way more destructive than they can ever be helpful, especially if you're doing it long term. And I've had people in my life who have gone down that road, and it's done nothing but really, I would have to say, destroy the rest of their body, more or less, just because they've been on it so long. So in this case, when you say the medical intuit found that, I guess what people probably are thinking when they're listening to this is, what do you mean by found?
Right. So medical intuitives, back to our clairsenses. So most of us have had the experience of clairsentience. We walk into a room and we feel the energy in the room. Many medical intuitives like to rely on their clairvoyance instead of clairsentience, because clairsentience means you're feeling things in your body, which may not always be comfortable if you're feeling what your client's feeling. And, let's say they have appendicitis. You don't want to feel that. So in my research, most of the ones I interviewed, should I say most? I'll say some, like to rely on clairvoyance. So we have our physical seeing, but when we are using clairvoyance, we're seeing beyond the physical and into the subtle energy realms, back to the biofield, the human energy field. And they can see in their mind's eye. So in this case, well, I don't want to keep using her story, but they can see in their mind's eye physically what's going on in a person's body. So in my research, the intuitives I interviewed, some talked about literally seeing, like one described it as a little video, like as if you were watching a YouTube video, but they see it in their mind and they can see the heart pumping. And they can see if the blood looks irregular. They can, they're literally seeing pictures in their mind. So that's what's happening. So this is why the medical intuitive does not need to be in the same room as the person they're reading. You just get on the phone. That's how it was, that first phone call I was describing. My first experience with the medical intuitive 15 plus years ago, she had never seen me. We were on the telephone. She'd never seen my daughter. She'd never seen me. And she didn't even know anything about me, because she doesn't have to, because they're setting the thinking brain aside, that part of our brain that needs data. It needs, the where, when, how. This is what medical doctors do. They take in a lot of physical data. They use tests and gather physical data. They use their hands. They ask questions, and that's all well and good. And then you'll find doctors too who say they also use their intuition. But back to medical intuitives, they don't need to be in the same room as you, because they're not using the physical senses. They're using the clairsenses. They're using extrasensory perception. So they're seeing pictures in their mind's eye. They're hearing things in their mind. There's one intuitive who told me you will hear the name of drugs that she's never heard of. She had a client who was having a negative drug interaction, and the intuitive picked up the name of the drug, even though she'd never heard it before. So that's what we call clairaudience, when you hear things in your mind. So that's how it's happening, is they're hearing things a person who's alert to the thinking state won't hear. So they've changed their mindset. When they start a session, they purposefully shift their focus out of thinking, out of logic, and they become a receptacle. They become a channel. They become open to information in the field. And I say the field, meaning the field of consciousness, the field of energy, the field of information that is always there, always present. And I really love this example we're using about the two people in the room, and we walk in and it's tension. That, if you just extrapolate that, that's that room, but that's happening everywhere all the time, right? So energy is available everywhere all the time, ever present. And that's what intuitives are tapping into using their extrasensory.
So I'm assuming, and I'm hopeful I'm right on this, the theory of entanglement or quantum entanglement is kind of where you were in the area of right there. So maybe you could.
Yeah. So quantum theory posits, and actually there's been experiments to prove this, that particles that were entangled at one point are forevermore aware of each other. So let's say particle A and B are combined into one bigger particle, and then they're separated, and A goes off in one direction and B goes off in another. Let's say A is on the other side of the planet. When something happens to particle B, let's say the rotation, that spin changes direction, the same thing happens to particle A. So that's quantum entanglement. It says that particles that were once one are always connected. And so this is an explanation that metaphysicists will use, I like to use, in explaining how we can tap into information. Back to my belief is that there's one source of everything. Well, if everything came from one place, that means everything was entangled, was together at one point. And this is similar to the Big Bang. You know, if you want to take that approach, and scientists talk about the Big Bang, and like poof, now there's all this physical matter. Same concept. It was all one thing first, and then poof, it all scattered. So if everything were entangled at one point, then everything is forevermore aware of one another. So this brings up too, there's a holographic theory about reality. So another way to say this is everything is a hologram. Are we living in a holographic universe? So in my pinky, in the tip of my pinky, all the information of the universe is right there. Because in a hologram, I don't know if you know much about holograms, and I don't know it well enough to articulate it very well, but conceptually what's happening in a hologram is every point of light, every point in it has the data of every other point in it. So that's another way to explain how, or another theory, the way we can look at reality is that everything is a reflection and has the knowledge of everything else. So these are explanations so these are not part of the conventional worldview that says if we can't measure it, it doesn't exist. This is a different worldview.
And so, that's an incredible place to go because it's very, I think it kind of explains, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but when twins talk about how when something happens to one, something happens to the other, or they feel that it happened.
Yes. There's actually a great book, Larry Dossey. Oh, he has so many titles. I'm forgetting which one it was of his, but he talks about exactly that phenomenon, and it happens with twins. There are cases he reports where it happens with mothers and children. So I remember this one story of grown adult man getting in an accident, and his mother, who was in another state, felt it. There's lots of stories like this where emotionally connected people feel what's happening with the other person.
Well, it's like you and your daughter. It's the motherly intuition that we've heard about for, obviously forever. That was similar to what you're talking about right now.
Yeah. I do think motherly intuition is along those same lines. We're very connected. Well, a quick side story related to that. This is about extrasensory perception in somebody I'm emotionally bonded with. So it's Larry Dossey is also another good source to find stories of telepathic communication between emotionally bonded people. But I remember one time my son, who was maybe 4 to 5 years old at the time, he was down the hall in his bedroom, asleep in his bed. And I was in another room down the hall. I literally heard him whisper in my ear. I heard him say, "Mom, it was so vivid and so physical in my ear that I got up. I'm like, oh, James must need me. And I walked into his room and he was sound asleep. And I, having now studied metaphysics for all these years, I now believe what was occurring in that moment was extrasensory perception. One theory is he was sleeping, but maybe dreaming about me, maybe thinking about me. Maybe he was in a twilight sleep and had a thought about me. Or maybe it was his spirit. Maybe his physical body was doing its sleeping thing, but his spirit, which some medical intuitives had told me that's like 60, 70% of us is still in the spirit realm. And our physical body is only 30 to 40% of our total selves. Maybe it was that part of him. Maybe it was his spirit or his soul. But I absolutely 100% heard him whisper in my ear. Mm-hmm. It was so stunning. Like I remember it vividly to this day. I've had other clairaudient experiences as well. But anyway, that's just an example of being emotionally bonded with a child and hearing something.
What an amazing way to end part 2 of this series with a story like that. And I hope you are enjoying an episode like this. And I intend on doing more wonderful interviews such as this one with medical intuition researcher Tracy Poff. We wrap up this fantastic discussion in the next episode. So please do not miss the third and the last part of this series coming very soon. You will not want to miss it. So, what did you think of this episode or any of the episodes? I would love to find out. And here is where to get a hold of the show and let us know. These are in the show notes, but as always, here they are. There is a support link in the show notes that you can also find on the newvisionoldways.com website that you can click on, and it will allow you to donate to the show and show your support. By donating what you can, it will allow me to book guests and cover costs. Anything will help. Of course, you can cancel anytime. You can also message the show from each episode on your various platforms. Just look for the send us a text message link. And if that doesn't work for you, you can email us at newvisionoldways@gmail.com. You can find us on what was Twitter at newvisionoldway. Remember, there's no S on that one. And check out the Newvision Oldways YouTube channel. Just type in Newvision one word, Old Ways, one word channel. Please subscribe. It is free and will show support for the show. It really means a lot and will help grow the show on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook. Just type in Newvision Oldways Podcast. You should be able to find us. And as a reminder, these are still growing platforms for us and expanding all the time. So we need your help to get the flow going with the community. And last but not least, if you could do me a huge favor and subscribe to us, like us, follow us, leave a review on whatever platform you found us on, that would be so appreciated. That will also help secure guests that we will be booking in the future, like Tracy Poff that we just had. So welcome to the middle of season 6. I have a lot to cover yet this season. So thank you for listening. I cannot wait to get your input. I also cannot wait until we get together for the next episode of Newvision Old Ways. Until then, stay true to yourself, stay informed, and stay empowered.
But the most important thing is...
This episode and all the episodes of Newvision Oldways podcast have been written, engineered, and produced by Tony Marinaccio and TKM Productions.